I discuss often in my channel about the benefits of leaving the lakes and the rivers that you're used to. But there are some major challenges that come with it. You know, not knowing if you're ever going to see your friends and family again, not knowing if the creature comforts that you've grown accustomed to will be there in the future if you ever choose to go back. And I'm not just talking about weighted blankets and your favorite combo at Whataburger. I'm talking about the drive home and you passing up the abandoned building that calls to you because there's like jasmine vines growing off the side of it and you can't help but to roll down your window as you're driving by, you know, getting those free smells. Or, you know, listening to the brown-headed cowbirds that you hear in your area as they sound like water as they're chirping. I don't know if you have these birds in your area, but they're really cool. And, you know, these are some of the things that I get to experience on a consistent basis when I'm in Texas that, you know, bring me joy. And when I first left for Tanzania, I didn't know if I would ever get to experience them again. But if you stay up at night thinking about the life that you want and, you know, that life being attached to living near the equator or living in the mountains or whatever the ideal picture is for you, if you're staying up thinking about these things, then like you have to go and get it. And there are things that, you know, if you don't accomplish them, you will regret it. So if you're new here, karibu, a big Swahili welcome to you. My name is Yahaira, and this channel is about building a regenerative way of living. I share my journey as an educator, filmmaker, birth worker, and future homesteader building what I call kin and soil. So I'm not sure where you're looking to move to, but this video is directed towards Black people who are considering a move to the continent of Africa or to the Caribbean. But what I'm about to say can translate probably anywhere you choose to go. So I will just also reiterate that I am very much a Garveyite and I see Pan-Africanism as a mindset for liberation for our people. So if that doesn't pertain to you, cool, take what applies and leave the rest. So here's the thing, you will miss people, places, and things. And when you're making these moves away from the lakes and the rivers that you're used to, like you're just gonna have to accept that. Even if you are someone that doesn't necessarily have a tight-knit community, you can even find yourself missing random people, like the manager at HEB that always strikes up a conversation with you and daps you up on the way out. You know, like imagine for a moment that you're eating, I don't know, jagere na chapati on a beautiful Tuesday afternoon, and all of a sudden you're slapped in the face with an emotion that you can't really name, you know, and what feels crappier is that you may not have anyone to talk to about it with, like, because how do you explain that you missed the bagger or the manager from HEB or even the grocery store itself, you know? Side note, if you've never been to Texas and had the experience of an HEB grocery store, you're really missing out because in my opinion, it's the best grocery store in the US, if you ask me. So if you're watching this video because you'll be moving soon, you know, there's also like a grief in this time where, like, in my opinion, we're at the end or the beginning of the book. So it's like so much is changing and like it's really an all or nothing type of time that we're living in my opinion. So either you have that spiritual cosign or you don't, you know, and leaving can be attached to sometimes this sadness because you're living in your truth and you're applying your lessons. But sometimes you see folks around you and they're still slaves to the status quo, you know, or AKA the B system. And I know that there are many places in the world that have this enslavery type of mentality, but there's a certain strength that the dark forces have in the United States that I haven't experienced to the same degree anywhere else I've lived or traveled to, really. I already hear some of y'all saying that these systems are mental, you know, but now ask yourself how difficult it is to come out of a mental place in the same environment that made you crazy to begin with. Like, I'm not saying it's impossible, but it's pretty damn near close to impossible, in my opinion. If you're a high achiever like me, along with the grief that comes with seeing all of this playing out, you may also start to develop a survivor's guilt because you are taking the steps that have been ordered by the great cosmic mother, you know, and I'm not saying that I know what's going to happen, because I don't, but I have a deep relationship with the one who does. And I know that what I was told to do was to set my life up to get as far away from the US as possible and to grow a family in a different environment than the one that I was raised in. So just to reiterate, observing the grief and survivor's guilt, you know, that when they come to visit you, like, it's very important for your success living outside of the US to address them when they come to you, to, you know, to hang out, to spend some time. Not saying to, you know, put them on as your own, but these emotions are important to navigate. There's also a different feeling that may come up for you as you learn this new place that you aren't familiar with, you know. Some of you take pride in the places that you come from, like, oh, I'm from Chicago, I'm from New York, or, you know, I come from Atlanta, whatever. I'm from the meanest streets of America type of thing. And, you know, I come from the Black Mecca of the US, like, bow down everybody else. And guess what? None of that matters in other contexts outside of America. Like, obviously we have to be street and book smart these days, but what I'm saying is that you can be all of those things, been through the war zones in our most violent streets of America, you know, been to the best academic institutions in the world. And, you know, your granddaddy could be the mayor of Atlanta, but like none of that translates to success abroad. And that's also something that can kind of hit you hard if you're not ready for it. Like this sentimental value that you have about these places and people that raised you, it's not necessarily a bad thing, but I think that it's something that should be kept more on a personal level, because the people that you're going to be living with in this other part of the world may grossly misunderstand the representation of what those people and places represent. Like, even African-born family members that I've spoken to in the past have sometimes very indoctrinated beliefs about some of us. And I don't necessarily blame them, because the white man has mentally oppressed them too. So like much of them, in my opinion, can sometimes carry these like very outdated propagandas about like kind of like a minstrelly outlook on our people here in the States. So when you go, bring your best self and don't get angry with our brothers and sisters who may unknowingly be seeing us negatively, because on the other side of it, I'm sure that there are some beliefs that you also hold about our African-born family members too. You know, you may not be conscious of it, but trust that it's there. And those beliefs are going to slap you in the face at the most inopportune time usually. So you've been forewarned. You know, I'm not saying be all up in everyone's face trying to give them a history lesson. I, as an educator, have already made that mistake for you. So 10 times over, you know, for the people that you meet along the way that seem like they would be open to learning, or have a desire to know the real story, share with them and with them only. I think that there's this very dangerous narrative going around the interwebs about foreign countries being considered cheap versus America. And first of all, I really hate that word, because a lot of the times, like, that country being painted as cheap is not cheap to the locals. You know, it's only cheap because you're coming with the American dollar. And the saying goes, pride comes before the fall, for a reason. So, you know, you go thinking it's cheap and you can make it off a dollar and a dream. And then fast forward the tape a few years or even a few months in some people's cases, and now you're homeless or trying to figure it out in a foreign country. Like, it's not cute. Like, I get it, especially for Black people. You want to be somewhere where your soul is not being drained dry for the sake of capitalism, you know, and you want to finally be in a space where you don't have to mentally deal with the depression that comes with that. You know, like the depression that comes with not having agency over your life. But, you know, let's keep it a buck. Like, Paulo Freire already said this in The Pedagogy of the Oppressed. Like, he told us that the oppressed have their worldview that is shaped by the cruelty that they experience. And as a result, their primary example of power is the oppressor, you know, which causes people to like unknowingly replicate this hierarchy, when they gain some control over their money or their time, rather than seeking true liberation. And unfortunately, as it stands at the recording date of this video, we, meaning Black Americans, generally speaking, don't have the political education that we need sometimes to see when we're exporting this cycle of oppression around the world, And please hear me good. Like, the American dollar is still strong at the recording date of this video, but we know that this is quickly changing as BRICS countries continue to gain power. And also, like, the book already told us what happens to places and people that have the Babylonian signature. The Bible talks about the great mother of prostitutes receiving judgment all in one day, all at the same time in the blink of an eye. So what makes you think that the coins attached to her are going to be worth anything when that day comes? But this is not a sermon, so all I'm going to say is get your house in order. And while you're doing that, like, exercise some humility, because these cotton papers, like, from one day to the next are going to be worthless. Like, mark my words on that. And at the same time, I understand that emotion behind wanting to feel valuable through the numbers in your bank account, like, especially, for those of us whose ancestors were taken to the Americas and their only value was producing for the plantation. Like, that's it, I understand the psyche behind why we do what we do, but you have to understand that value in other parts of the world, like when you observe people on the continent, in the Caribbean, oftentimes you see that they find value in the mango tree in their yard that they didn't plant. Or like spending time with their family, eating good food, regardless of what designer clothes that they have. When you've spent your time designing a life beyond brands and logos, like, the foo-foo don't matter. Not only does it not matter, it's almost like it stinks up the place. So the emotional reality on moving abroad is having to pick where you stand on capitalism versus socialism, or having to choose if you continue to find your worth in material consumerism or not. Like, point blank simple. What's important to understand is that these countries may look cheap on paper, but what's not being said is that some places are going to require you to pay 6 months rent up front, 12 months rent up front in certain countries. And you may be saying to yourself now, like, okay, I don't got no problem with that. Fine, but there's other hidden costs, like maybe you get sick with malaria or typhoid or an amoeba or all three at the same time. And now you're paying for like hospital admission at the top hospitals in that country because you don't want to kick the can. These things cost a pretty penny. And so keep that in mind. That's that. And then also the other hidden cost of the black tax, if you're an elder daughter like me, you could be someone who's taking care of other family members back wherever you came from. And you'll have to make sure that you can still be able to do that while you're living overseas. So these are some things to keep in mind. And to compound on the same challenge is like, you don't necessarily have a village like right when you move where you're going because you're new to the area. So it's going to take you some time to learn the market value of the goods and the services, and to like be prepared. You have to be prepared to come out of pocket more than normal until you create that village, that can help you navigate some of these things in country. These are just some of the hidden costs to keep in mind that can start adding up once you're overseas. And just know, like, I need you to understand, I'm not saying that it's not feasible. It's very feasible for you to come and start a new life and enjoy yourself. But these are just some things to keep in mind as you're beefing up your savings to go. Being born into the soul-sucking countries of the Americas and being taken, oppressed, and displaced from your original, great cosmic mother given GPS coordinates, like, I can understand the need to also be on the search for something else. And I also understand just as deeply the emotions that arise when you're seen like a bastard child from the motherland. But like, just take a deep breath on this next part, okay? Number one, you have to accept that what happened to us in the Ma'afa, in the transatlantic and trans-Sub-Saharan slave Holocaust, like that feeling is never gonna be healed just by moving back to the motherland or to the Caribbean or Latin America. There is no amount of reparations that can fix what's happened to us. And if you decide to stay and create your family outside of America, a consolation prize maybe is, I do believe that, in my opinion, it will only take a generation or two max for the story to completely change for your family. And to be honest, that's also what I believe that people are afraid of on both sides of the fence. You know, to generalize it, you know, non-blacks are afraid of losing free labor, and African people are afraid that we, Black America, will take over. And once you understand that, I think it will become easier for you on your journey. But something else that I think is really important to name is that you do not need anyone to validate your identity as an African. No amount of FBAs, no amount of misguided Africans or insufferable white or Arab people should sway you from who you are. And if you ask me, this deep melanin and the kinks in our hair is a signature, a universal signature enough. So let that be a help to you on your journey. If you're anything like me, you will get heated every time that you introduce yourself to someone on the continent and they call you a Muzungu or any other derogatory term linking you to your oppressors. You know, at least at the recording date of this video, I can say it has gotten easier for me. You know, I can anticipate it a bit better now. And I've practiced my responses in the mirror so that the next time I'm out in the world, I'm not wanting to throw hands and get arrested in a foreign country, okay? It's been a huge help for me to take a step back for a little bit. So like I want to say this too to African-born family members watching this. Like, yes, there are African Americans who don't identify with Africa, as idiotic as it sounds for me to put those words together, but they are there. And I just need you to understand that the African Americans that you do meet, like, just know that they had to do so much mental decolonization just to even get there, you know, let alone the physical work that it took for them to have some coins to rub together, to get on a plane and to get an apartment and all of the above. Like, I do believe that some of y'all are finding out right now that from other African YouTubers that are sharing their stories online that ain't nothing cheap here in America, you know? So for the Ma'afa born family members that you meet, just know that for them to be in your country is truly a miracle. For them to be anywhere outside of the US is truly a miracle, because it's looking real Egypt, Pharaoh, let my people go around here. Okay, when you meet one of us in the wild, I need you to really think about how many dragons that we had to slay in order for us to even just get free from the beast system, like to be in a different location. So, you know, when you call us terms like Muzungu or Oyibo or Obroni or Ferenj in Ethiopia, like, these things do major damage to the relational building that can take place between us. So just FYI for those watching. I think it's also important for all daughters and sons of Africa to understand that the Ma'afa-born descendant that you're meeting that has moved to the continent or the Caribbean or Latin America, like, in my opinion, they are the cream of the crop, because they've done a lot of mental work, you know, just to even leave their situation. But honestly, that same mental work has also probably deeply affected them. You know, I almost see it as like a soldier who's been MIA and behind enemy lines for centuries. Like, think about us that way. You know, maybe that'll give y'all some more empathy on y'all side of it. Like, truly, imagine a soldier coming back home after years or even decades away. Like, see that in your mind. You know, you can see their strength from miles away, but what you may not be able to see is the mental scars. You know, the post-traumatic slave syndrome that they have. Like, there's no physical bruise that you can point to for that. And this can manifest in so many different ways. So for the sake of time, I'll make another video on that in the future. But what I'll say here is that there should be room made for us on the continent, wherever we want to go. On another note, I think a piece that a lot of people may not be prepared for, and I think that might be embarrassing for people to talk about, is, you know, when you do your Sankofa back to places like Africa and the Caribbean, And there's this grief that comes up when you realize that there were things that you were missing out on from your upbringing, and you didn't even know that you was missing them. Like, you see children growing up around extended family members and in multi-generational households. You see people eating food that actually came from the earth. You see neighbors checking in on each other. Like, you see community functioning as a community. You see people gathering without having to spend exorbitant amounts of money. Like, you see a life that's not surrounded by work, and this is the standard in places like Africa and the Caribbean. And obviously I'm making general sweeping statements here, but when you grow up in the US, like you're looking at processed foods, convenience culture, you're exhausted due to being a wage slave, right? And this concept of like rugged individualism. And when you go to other parts in the world, it just like slaps you in the face with how much you didn't have growing up and honestly into adulthood, But I think the danger there is that if you don't process those emotions honestly, that grief can turn into resentment. That resentment can turn into envy. And you start looking at people who grew up with certain things and feeling angry at them when really that anger is misplaced and belongs somewhere else. So for the diaspora, the African diaspora living in the Americas, that return, like for your return, just know, like, even though what I'm saying is like the hope and the dream of how the collective should understand us and welcome us and treat us, like, even if they don't give that to you, you still have to keep pushing. Because like I said, like there's nobody on planet Earth that can validate your identity as an African. You know what the creator and the ancestors told you. Like, what they told you where to be and where would be safe for you and your family. So no matter what the news says, no matter how others try to make you feel in this process, like just know that you got to keep going to the GPS coordinates that were given to you. Like, I think so many times in this experience on Harriet Tubman, like she already said it. If you hear the dogs, keep going. If you get caught up in the maze of the woods, keep going. If you hear people shouting behind you, keep going. Like, don't ever stop. So like, in order to for you to do this, you're going to have to keep your stamina. You're really going to have to keep your stamina because this romanticism, like, of us returning, a lot of people aren't really ready for that. Like, literally think about it. There's no point in time in the history that I know that was written in books and the things that I've researched, I've never seen a time, maybe in the Bible, literally when the Israelites were leaving freaking Egypt. But other than that, I don't think that there's ever been a move like this specifically for what we call to be the so-called Black man and woman here in the Americas. We've never, the only thing I could, and this is also, side note, this is also something that I think is important to research, is what happened in Liberia, right? Like, there was one movement and it was Liberia. And there was a situation, let me say, where what I was saying was like frontline and center. The non-whites were afraid to lose their free labor, and the African-born people that were there were afraid that the Black people that were coming to Liberia were going to take over. So this whole equation, if you will, this brought about a lot of fighting. So it was like the external forces egging on fighting between the Liberians that were there. They weren't called Liberians at the time, but the people that were there, the groups that were there, and the group of Americans, Black Americans who came to repatriate back to the continent. So it's so many things that I could say, and I'm really trying to stay on script. I do read from a script. I write a full script for every one of these videos because I want to make sure that I stay on topic. But I think it's very important for us to, and when I say us, again, meaning Black Americans. And when I say Black Americans, I mean Black people in the Americas. So that's just not Black people here in the US. That's Black people in Belize. That's Black people in Puerto Rico. That's Black people in Panama. That's Black people in Brazil. Okay. Like there was once a time where there was these delineations, however you want to call it. They were not there. They were not there. And I'm going to do a full video on the diaspora wars in the future. I don't really want to focus on that right now. I want to focus on the good stuff. But all I'm going to say is that this is like what we're seeing now. Like these tactics are nothing new. There's nothing new about them. So we really need to get our head in the game. I saw a beautiful clip. Was it Ivory Coast and Ireland that was playing? I don't know, but one of the players kicked the other player down in kind of a violent way. But he didn't mean to, and the guy kind of came up like he was about to start fighting, and the other guy was like, "No, I'm so sorry," right? So that humility is what is needed right now for us to unify. And all of these words that we have used in our history, okay, it happened. Now let's move forward. No more African booty scratcher, no more Muzungu, okay? Like let it all dissipate and let's come to a new agreement. This new agreement in this new earth, I mean, we shouldn't even have borders anyway. That's the old earth. That's the old world. In this new earth, there are no borders, particularly in this telepathy that may be arising within us, okay? This teleportation that may be arising in us. There's no need for these borders and this is my tribe. Oh, I'm Chaga and you're Niamwezi, or, I'm this and you're that. No, we're all here. We're all here together. Okay. I'm Luo, I'm Kikuyu. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. The only thing that matters now is what we do today, what we do here in the present. Yes, Liberia happened. Yes, African immigrants come here and try to put themselves on a pedestal higher than the Black Americans that were here. These things happened, but I'm no longer going to talk about them like they're happening. Okay. And I think that that's something that we all need to come to the reality to. And that's really the emotional reality of it all, right? Like, yes, there are bad actors, but there's also so many good actors. There's also so many good people who are waiting to welcome you on the other side of all of this. So just keep all of that in mind. I'm going to get back to my script now. In order to keep going in this process that doesn't have a manual, you're going to have to keep your stamina, okay? So some solutions that I would suggest is keep the romanticism to yourself, because there are too many people, known and unknown, that are ready to shout people down here, especially on the internet, okay? So that's number one. Second, I repeat, you do not need anyone to validate your experience and what Creator and the ancestors told you to do, okay? We should romanticize our Sankofa journey because it's literally impossible to list and name all of the atrocities that took place in the Ma'afa. We would be here for years just listing out every offense. So I say leave that to the Great Cosmic Mother, and it will be very clear very soon what all folks need to pay for, okay? The third thing I would say is, even though you may come across some very ignorant people on this journey, you should not let that stop you from trying to make friends in your new country. Because in spite of everything trying to work against you, you will need community. We all need community. We need people to talk to. So if you're going to have to figure that out very quickly, who is genuinely wanting to cultivate a friendship, and folks who are genuinely wanting to cultivate a transaction. Okay. So keep that in mind. I think I'm on number 4. Bring your best self for yourself. Okay. You worked hard to get where you're at. And unless someone was sleeping in the bed right next to you, they most likely won't have sympathy or empathy for your journey. Even if somebody's sleeping in the same bed as you, they may not they may not fully get it still. So no matter where your feet take you, just know that you deserve to be there. So celebrate that. Don't wait for someone else to throw you a party. And lastly, go and explore the world with joy. Okay. One of my favorite poems is by a woman named Lucille Clifton. And the last bar of the poem, she says, "Come celebrate with me that every day something has tried to kill me and has failed." Okay. You're a living, breathing human being on planet Earth right now. And you're a sun-kissed melanin being, like, my dear, you have won, okay? So hail yourself for being brave enough to make moves in life that are creating an interesting life story, no matter how it ends, you know? You muster up the courage to face your internal emotions and go for something that you want. Like, that is enough. So for the sake of time, I'm going to end my soliloquy there for today. If this conversation resonated with you, let me know your thoughts below. I also will put a link to Lucille Clifton's book down below if you want to purchase her poetry, Rest in Power. And if you found value in this yap session, like, consider subscribing, because in the next video, I'm going to go into detail on my educational philosophy. So be there or be square, okay? Go and touch some grass with your people. Sending love to all benevolent beings. AMANI na UPENDO.